What's up, everybody? We are now in episode 3.
We done made it.
We getting there. Paper Room Podcast brought to you by BT Young Adults. Excited for today, for this conversation. My name is Danny. We have the wonderful Isha and Nick with us, as always. And man, today's going to be really fun. Just kind of reminding you of why we're doing this. We're doing this because we, one, believe in young adults, especially the young adults of this generation, as we're just striving to live out our faith in Jesus. And the goal of this podcast is simply to have conversations to help young adults navigate the craziness of this life, because life is crazy.
It's wild.
It's crazy out there, right? Y'all be safe. Put your seatbelts on, all that good stuff.
Don't do drugs.
Don't do drugs. Yeah, isn't that like February? Like is
Blue Ribbons?
Yeah, Blue Ribbon Month or something like that.
I know it's Black History
Month.
Month.
That's true. Amen. Yeah, I just read a book, and so we can talk about that in another podcast. I'd love to. But all to say, young adults trying to navigate the craziness of life as you're following Jesus. Our desire is to help you take those faithful steps as you do that. And so today we're going to talk about a really interesting topic that I think a lot of young adults really want answers to. And the topic today we're going to focus on is the topic of singleness. Right.
Wow.
Of why maybe you're tuning in and you have been pursuing relationships, you're pursuing dating, and maybe you have the question of like, why am I still single? And really what we want to talk about is that singleness, that season of your life, doesn't have to suck, right? That there's things that we can do as we pursue Jesus.
That is a good word. It does not have to.
It does not have to, right? So we're going to get into that. But before we get into that, I'd love to get to know each other a little bit. So Nick.
Yes.
You've been married.
Yes, 17 years in August.
Amen.
Awesome.
Congratulations.
Which is crazy.
August what?
August 13th.
Oh, cool. My birthday's the 25th, so I was just curious.
Yeah.
My birthday's the 3rd, so
We all August.
August was a special.
It's a special month.
17 years. I remember when you did this. It was at Camp Zephyr. It was the first night. Or Monday night, you were talking about like, what's up, everybody? My name's Nick. Introducing yourself to the camp. And I forgot the number of years that you shared, but you basically said, my wife and I have been Netflix and chilling for X amount of years.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
and then I changed it because we were saved, and everyone was like, oh. So I said, we've been Disney Plus
Oh, there you go.
and chilling,
Yeah.
and we made a little incredible.
That's good.
Hey, you did too.
That's good. Amen. Yeah. So Summer Nights just found out we're having a boy.
That's awesome.
So excited.
We don't have any ideas for names.
Nicholas.
So,
Nicholas is a great name.
Nicholas. I like it. We'll see.
Danny Jr.
So yeah, excited about that. We'll
That's
see.
awesome.
It's going to be fun. How long or at what age did you meet Nikki?
So I met my wife when I was 17 years old.
Wow.
I met her I was still in high
17
school.
years young.
Yeah, I met her on my college visit
Okay.
to college. She was already in college. And we just met from there and kept talking, and one thing led to another, and she's my baby.
So was she like leading a tour or something, or how did you
No,
meet her?
so we met on the campus of North Carolina Central University in Durham, North Carolina. My good friend at the time played keyboard in the gospel choir.
Okay.
And so I went to gospel choir rehearsal because I was on my weekend visit. I didn't even want to go to North Carolina Central. I wanted to go to FAMU. But after I saw Nikki, I was like, you know what? I'm probably going to have to go to North Carolina.
I like it.
And yeah, so she was there. And I still remember what she had on. She had on a half cut jean jacket, a black sweater dress with some hoop earrings. See, in the Valley, you know, people don't get to wear sweater dresses because it's too hot.
It's too hot.
But when you see a beautiful woman in a sweater dress, it'll change your life.
You say, whoa, man.
That's what I said.
That's what Adam said when he met Eve, right?
And so it's crazy. So, when talking about being single, I do believe, you are single until you get married.
Yeah.
So I didn't have a long time of being single, but, still temptations and all of that come with it. I just so happened to find the woman that I wanted to commit to, and she found the guy that she wanted to commit to, and we've been married ever since.
That's awesome. What age did y'all get married?
I was 20.
Okay.
And I'm not going to tell her age, but she's 3 years older than me.
Got it. Okay.
So she was, Yeah.
There you go. I like that. That's good. Yeah, Summer and I are opposite. I'm 3 years older than she is.
Okay.
Yeah, and so, Isha, like, you're in a relationship, right?
Yes.
I saw on Instagram the other day that you all celebrated something.
Yes, we celebrated 6 months dating.
6 months of dating. That's a big milestone.
We're
Yeah.
just
Especially in this day and time.
Oh,
what?
I'm serious.
yeah, 100%.
Like one of the Kardashians was only married for 72 days.
Wow.
You the stat guy. You
That's true. All right, let me give us some stats really quick. So, for young adults,
Stats.
you're tuning in. I'm a stat guy. I love looking at our culture. So, young adults tuning in, and you're in a season of singleness. I want to give you maybe just a glimpse of hope. So, here we go. 74% of women get married by the age of 30. It's pretty good. 3/4 of women. 86% of women get married by the age of 40. So, statistically, if you're tuning in and you're single, you have a pretty good shot at getting married, right? 86%. It may not be by the timing that you want to get married by.
Yeah.
And so, we talked about last night at Young Adults about how the enemy desires to rush into something. And so maybe not be the timing that you want to do it in, but ideally you're doing okay. And that's an emphasis we want to focus on throughout this entire dating relationship, whether we're teaching on a Tuesday night Young Adults or talking about it in a podcast. But my hope and prayer is that as you look at your life, you just understand that you're doing okay, right? Why? Prayerfully, because you have Jesus, and that's the ultimate reason why you're doing okay. And so, we're going to talk about this season of singleness that you're in. But I want to ask this question really quick: have you guys ever received a gift that you didn't want or didn't know how to use or care to use?
Yes.
Uh-oh.
I was such a weird kid, but I get teased every single holiday by my family. I was probably like 7, and we were at my grandma's house for Christmas, and we do the gift exchange. So everybody's kind of scattered around the room, and we just kind of pass out the gifts, and we read the tag and all of that. So I read the tag. It said, "From Grandma to Isha." And I open it, and my grandma was across the room. And I said, because it was a Barbie. So I said, "Hey, Grandma." And I yelled it across the room. I was a kid. I didn't know any better. I don't like Barbies, but I like this one. Thank you.
Oh, wow.
And then she couldn't hear me from across the room, so I had to say it again.
You didn't have to say it.
It was so embarrassing. But at the moment, I was just like, I think I wanted to be different. Like, I didn't want to be that girl that played with Barbies.
Yeah.
Like, I was more of a tomboy. So I was just kind of like, I don't play with Barbies. Come
So
on.
you made yourself like that one because your grandmother gave it to you.
Yeah. Wow. And I was lying. Like, I'm fine with Barbies, but I just wanted to be a little bit cooler than that.
Do you still own the Barbie?
No.
Oh.
No.
What'd you do with it?
I don't know. Put it in a yard sale.
Oh, there you go.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you didn't like it.
Do you ever gotten a gift you didn't want?
So I'm not that guy. I appreciate what people give me.
Okay.
I'm the guy that gives gifts that people don't want. And because they say it's the thought that counts.
Mm-hmm.
So I try to give thoughtful gifts. But I always give gifts that I have to explain in my family, like, thank you, I guess.
Right.
So I'm the guy that gives the gifts that nobody likes.
So for me, I'm one of the first Christians of my family. So to kind of start the story this way, committed, now on church staff, all that stuff.
Name the baby Abraham.
And so, that's true. There you go. That might. Summer, if you're listening, let me know what you think. So from the moment I kind of became like this pastor on staff at churches, all my extended family started getting me those kind of gifts.
Yeah,
where it's just
churchy gifts.
Yeah, churchy gifts. It's like, all right, here's a coffee mug with, a wrapped around Bible verse all over, and here's another cross for your house. And it's just like, man, this is cool. But it's just like,
I want a beanie.
Yeah, it's like, this is cool. And so it's just always funny and interesting. And so thinking about that, and the reason we say this, I was reading Outdated, Jonathan Bacluta, amazing resource. If you're listening, go read that book, especially book. Whether you're single, dating, or married, go read that book.
Who's JP?
JP, man, there you go. Awesome resource. And so I love that he used this illustration that sometimes we receive these gifts that maybe we don't want. And I think for so many people, that idea of singleness is a gift that nobody wants, right? And it's a gift that we don't one, don't want, but also don't even know how to use. And I think as believers of Jesus, a real reality is that God can 100% use your season of singleness.
Absolutely.
Yes.
But what happens is we get distracted by wanting the next thing, and so we just kind of feel stuck in that moment by way of looking ahead too forward to wanting to go after this reality of wanting to be married. And so kind of thinking about that, because when you think about singleness in culture, sometimes that can be viewed in a negative light. It can be viewed as bad. It can be viewed as whatever the case would be, especially when I think about church culture. One of the things that we want to do in church culture is kind of get people married type of thing.
Yeah.
And so why do you think singleness is almost seen in a negative light in our culture is something I'd like to discuss.
I think it just has a negative connotation to it, especially, I mean, it feels like a word that's just the word itself, like, oh, you're single. Like, it's a word that's thrown around like a dirty Band-Aid. Like nobody wants it, you know? Like, it's, kind of like a condescending if that person is not single. Maybe there's also like, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but you guys can chime in on this. I feel like there might be an underlying reason why it's kind of looked down upon. And I feel like maybe in the church culture, we use relationships to fuel our craving for drama. And like we always say that, like, oh, students, they're so full of drama, you know, middle school, high school relationships. But what about those people that are, you know, like, oh, that person, like, did you see them? They're with this other person. Like, when did that happen? And people are just dying to kind of know what's happening, or that person's not talking to that person anymore. Like, what happened?
That's why people watch The Bachelor. They love the drama, right?
So then if somebody's not, like, their relationship status hasn't changed, then it's kind of like, oh, you know, like, it's more, I guess maybe it's more boring for people.
Life is boring.
If, you know,
if there's no drama. Yeah.
If there's nothing like, oh, something's changing, something's new, like, what's going on? I want to be in the know, instead of either talking to that person directly and asking them, hey, what's up? Or just staying out of their business.
Right. And I mean, I don't know if this is like true or not, but one of my favorite movies is The Social Network, you know, the creation of Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg. And I remember he has this like moment of like, we need to launch this website. We're almost done with it. And his big like launch point was a social status. Are you dating? Are you single? Are you in a relationship? And he was like, man, once you put that, then we're ready to launch.
Wow.
Because people want to know. They want to know that drama. And even knowing it from a distance without asking them, they want to see a profile, see the status of that person to know, like, I'm going to go pursue this person. Or even if they're dating, they may still go pursue that person. I don't know. But those are the questions that young adults, college students who have this drive want to go answer.
Yeah. I guess I see it differently. I do think that there are certain, certain church environments that maybe look down on people who are single or do, but I think it can stem from maybe an unbalanced kind of communication, because yes, the scripture in Hebrews, it says, let marriage be held in high esteem among all. Like, marriage is a big deal. Yeah. Marriage is important. One of the major...
The Bible starts in marriage and ends in marriage.
Yeah. One of the major indicators, for people not being in poverty is marriage. Yeah. Like, and so as a guy that loves young adults, I want to encourage people to enter into sober-mindedly and Christ-centeredly, but enter into the covenant of marriage. That's very important. But I think there's sometimes an unbalance in having that desire to do that, and then equipping the vast majority of the singles, under my care. So I think that kind of comes from it. And then when you see a lot of how we communicate to singles, it's more of a hammer than a map and a guide. Yeah. When we communicate to marriage, it's more, it's more gentle, it's more loving, it's more flowery. But when we talking to singles, it's like, we're bringing out the whip, and and so that can make that experience feel burdensome.
Yeah, no, that's good. And It's interesting to think that a lot of times in that culture, like what we want to do, because in this reality of singleness, it's seen as maybe an issue, a problem, a negative light, whatever. So we think that the solution is then to get married, right? Almost as if like getting married is automatically going to make you closer to Jesus.
No.
And so the solution is to be, let's
being
get closer
single,
to Jesus.
and being single don't mean you far from Jesus.
Yes,
Yeah.
100%. That's
Yeah.
good. And so let's go there for a second, because somebody who was really close to Jesus biblically was the Apostle Paul, right? And so this guy was a missionary on fire, all that stuff, church planted, greatest missionary of all time type of thing. And what we know about the Apostle Paul is that he was single, right? And so you look at 1 Corinthians chapter 7, they're asking all these questions about marriage and sexuality and intimacy and all that stuff, and Corinthians is
Yeah, he was wild.
Las Vegas, right? Sin City. And so with that, Paul says, my advice to you is to do what I'm doing, right?
Yeah.
It's just to remain single. But because you're human, you have these sexual drives, then get married, right? And do it this way. Go ahead.
And I think that's a good principle that we see. Well, not just a principle, but a pattern that we see. It's like when people can cope with something and ride with something and bear something from our perspective, that's how we're going to share it.
Right.
Because that's what Paul did. Paul said, I wish all y'all jokers could be like me.
Right.
Right, yeah.
And I'm married, been married for 17 years. I'm like, Paul,
I can't do
shut
that.
up, Doc. I don't know.
I can't
That
be
ain't my
like you.
perspective.
Right.
So when you talk about the church, the vast majority of Christian leaders are married. And so, it's that same thing. Like, I wish all y'all could be like me. I think that
That makes
kind
sense.
of pattern is there. But
Yeah.
God bless you, Paul. In heaven,
100%.
we're gonna talk.
We're gonna talk
But I
about
love
that.
what Paul said. He said, "This me, this ain't God."
Yes. Yeah. It wasn't a command. Like, this is not a biblical command to stay single.
And I think when we
it was a
talk,
piece of advice.
we have to be humble like Paul was and say, "Hey, this just me. This ain't God."
Yes.
So what the stuff that I offer as it relates to how to navigate your single life. This just gonna be for me. This ain't gonna be.
Yeah. And so I want to get into that, like biblically, biblically, obviously there's a lot about marriage, right? We talked about Bible begins in marriage, ends in marriage. We see that the Institute of Marriage as a picture of the gospel and all that stuff. But biblically, what does the Bible say about singleness? And so we're looking at Paul. I know kind of in our, as we're preparing for this podcast, Isha, you mentioned that you wanted to bring up Ruth. And so I'd love to kind of get into that. Like, what was your kind of thought process of thinking about her story?
Yeah, I love her story because she like right out the gate, after she's going through a terrible loss and experience, she lost her husband, and she's now at a crossroads to choose. Okay, I know that this town over here is going to find me another husband and make me another life, basically. This other road, it's like completely unknown. It's like to a town that I'm going to be a foreigner in. And I don't know what's over there, but I'm going to follow Naomi. So she makes this decision to just, like, that's not everything. Like, it would help a lot. Back then, it was like, probably one of the smartest decisions you can make is to get married. But she just willingly chose God in that moment and chose faithfulness. And I just love that she wasn't really worried about things that she would be lacking. She wasn't really worried about
That's good.
Being seen as less than, even though she knew she was going to walk into that. It was more of like, I know that I'm going to work and I'm going to be faithful to the people that God has me with right now, which is my mother-in-law. So,
that's
I
good.
mean, this is what I'm called to do right now. And then she made that decision. Yeah,
that's tough. When you get into that crossroads, I liked how you kind of gave us that picture that, like, you can go here and it's going to be safe, it's going to be easy, whatever. Or you can go here and trust God in a big way with this without knowing what is going to happen with your life. And feeling those moments of like, I might be lonely. I don't know what this is going to look like, but I'm going to go in this direction. And I think part of that was Ruth desire to be devoted to the Lord, right? That was one of her big things. And we see that with Paul again in 1 Corinthians 7, that it's that devotion without distraction. And so kind of talking about that for a second, how do you think that people who are single, what we don't want to view single as you're broken, something's wrong with you, whatever. Because ideally, statistically, it's a season, right? You 86% of you're going to get married and you're going to be fine. Prayerfully, all of you. But how do you think people can use a season of singleness really for God's glory?
That's really good, and I love what a pastor from Cleveland, Ohio, Pastor R.A. Vernon. He wrote a book that's really good. I think it's called 10 Rules of Dating. But he classifies singles, and he says, so you can either be single and satisfied. These are people that are either, content in the state that they're in. They have kind of welcomed that gift, or they're single and satisfied, understanding that it's a season, and like you're saying, they're devoted to the Lord. He says, or you can be single and scared. Wow. Wounded, single and jumping into relationships because of insecurity, or single and not wanting, or like single wanting a relationship but not wanting to take, like you said, the risk of the unknown, like Ruth did. So you could be single and scared. He says you could be single and sinning, which is you hooking up, you shacking up, whatever it is, you tossing it up. I don't know what you're doing, but something. You're single and seeking, and that is when you want an active relationship. But this is what I believe, and this is what to go back to your original question. Understand that you are always in relationship with somebody. Yeah. You may not be in a relationship with a significant other, but you are always in a relationship with somebody. And we this podcast is designed to help young adults follow Jesus. You are always in a relationship with God.
That's right.
And as you follow him, and you talked about it last night, giving God a say into those relationships that you pursue, the ones you focus on, you know. So you're always in a relationship with somebody. And then I would say this. Here's another way you can maximize your single season is get to know yourself.
That's good.
Like really spend some time where you can kind of cultivate the security of your soul by, spending time with God, engaging in the spiritual disciplines, getting surrounded in community. One of the pieces I love about Ruth's story is her submitting to the coaching of Naomi.
Yeah, that's good.
That was huge.
That was huge. She said, "Baby girl, you're gonna have to change. You're gonna have to change your clothes. Right. You're gonna have to look different. You're gonna have to seek a man that's working. Like you." She submitted to that though. Yeah. And a lot of times in this single state, God is allowing us to see so much of our rough edges, where if we would enter in community, and we take those things to Jesus, that would help eliminate a whole lot of stuff before we even get in a relationship. That's good. So I don't.
Isha, I want to kind of hear from you for because we found out you're 6 months into a dating relationship.
Wow.
Amen. Good job.
Thank you.
But also, well, 1, 2, you're not married yet.
So you single.
And so you, technically.
You taken, but you single.
You taken, but you're single, right? And so kind of for you, as you kind of process a little bit of the singleness of your season, how have you kind of desired to use that singleness for God's glory?
Well, I'll just kind of piggyback off that last section of what Nick was saying about community, because I think that is one of the most difficult parts about being single is when you're alone, when you're not in the right community. Yeah. And that was me for a very long time. Like I it took me 22 years to fully, completely surrender my love life to God.
Wow.
And I was already in the church. I was already saved, but I was still chasing crushes or, you know, who am I going to marry? Like, it was always on my mind. And I wasted so many years of singleness. And of course, God doesn't waste anything. He uses everything.
Yeah, come on.
Which I'm very glad for. But looking back, like, I wish that I would have been surrounded by just a community of, I mean, the one that I have now, you know, the one that when I finally did make that decision, like, okay, God, like, I'm done. I'm tired of wasting my time. It's just me and you now. And I was craving that, which is crazy. So much so to the point that when I finally did make that decision, I was counting my relationship sobriety, like the days. Like, I was saying, like, okay, 1 month single. Like, this is, because it was a huge win for me.
Relationship sobriety.
It was crazy.
That's tough, man.
Thinking like, okay, 4 months single. Like, I'm fine. And I was so free. It was so freeing to be obedient to the Lord in that, because I had just realized, like, I was completely torn in two. Like, God did not have all of me for so long. But then I started surrounding myself around other people that were like young adults like me. Like, okay, we're content. Like, we're good chasing after this ministry that I have been gifted. Like, I don't need anything else. All I have is Jesus, and that's enough for me. And that's good. I just wish that I would have.
Do y'all have do you have like older women or older people in
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Coming out of my last long-term relationship, I was being discipled by an older woman who was amazing, faithful woman of God. And then when that kind of season ended, then there was a little gap where I didn't really have anyone that was kind of keeping me accountable, checking up on me. And that's where the enemy was working a little bit more. Like, okay, yeah, I'm single, but like, I guess who's next? And I'm just like saying yes to all these coffee dates when I shouldn't, or when I didn't need to. And it's like,
as long as they pay, it's okay.
You know, don't say yes to everyone. That's true. To anyone listening, you don't need to say yes to everyone.
That's a good word. That's a good word.
But then when I realized, you know what, like I need someone to bounce some decisions off of. I need someone who's going to come look from the outside and kind of coach me and guide me and tell me like, hey, that's not really a good idea. Like,
that's so good. That
I just needed that, like a friend, but somebody who was close with Christ and somebody that was married. Like, I needed that, and that was Summer for me. It still is, because I needed that perspective. She's of like, great. This is eternity that you're still living for. So don't waste it living for moments that are temporary. I
love that. That's good. And that brought me to what you said about Ari Vernon, the singleness and satisfied. Yeah. And my prayer is that if you're in a season of singleness, that's where you would be right now. And it's that devoted without distraction type of thing. Because I think, I don't want to portray, and I don't think we're doing this, but I think what can happen is that it's often women who think about their singleness and not men. But
it's dudes all the time, because they be on the gram stunting and they be and that was me. In people's like, DMs and all that.
I was always afraid of being single. And I mentioned this last night with our first session with young adults, but it's just like I always had to at least be texting a girl, like somebody. Whether I was dating somebody, then we broke up, I'd find someone else just to text right away. Because it's just that fear of you're not with somebody. I think it is a very real fear. And at that time, I wasn't chasing my relationship with Jesus. And so it's real for guys too. And so if you're a dude listening and you're in a season of singleness, absolutely, you know, what are you looking at, who you're listening to, kind of all that stuff. But I love just going back to Paul with devoted without distraction. One thing I think that young adults can use in this moment of singleness is you have so much time. so use that time for God's glory, and you're gifted with passions. And so I love what you said too, Nick, about like do some soul searching. Like what do you love to do? How do you love to serve and tap into those moments? And when you walk, hopefully prayerfully, you're plugged into a local church community. But when you walk into a church, just thinking, how can I serve God today? How can I worship worship God today versus like, am I gonna find my one today, right? And so just that mindset of when you walk into somewhere, and I think about young adults. You know, I love having conversations with young adults who are just passionate for the gospel. We young adults are such a passionate generation. You know, they're going to put the X's on their hands. They're going to take pictures. They're passionate about stuff. There's literally a passion conference for young adults, right? And so
Skybox.
A buddy of mine, we met him last night. His name is Johan. Great dude, and I love running into him because I always know that I'm just gonna hear how God is working in like all over the world. Like this guy is a world traveler for the gospel. When I look at his Instagram, he's just everywhere. He's in Brazil, you know, he's in Dallas, he's in other states, other countries. He's like, yeah, we're going to, you know, South Korea, and I'm like, okay, bro, like tomorrow. And I'm just thinking like, man, that dude is a good example, a picture of devoted without distraction. Like he's using this moment of just to be available to go do those things. But like for me, my call was getting married, right? And as Paul said, like if that's where you feel God leading you to, then go do it. Like this is the way of doing it. But it's just like I can't just be like, all right, summer, I'm gonna go to Brazil tomorrow. Like I'll see you later. And so now it's you're devoted to God and your relationship with Him, but you're also now devoted to your spouse. And so that's it's an adjustment of how you live out your calling as you live it out together. And so I think how you use this season that you're in of singleness is going to be so important, and can be used for huge ways in one, fulfilling your calling within the local church body of serving and using those gifts. I think can be awesome. Making
the most of every opportunity.
Yeah.
Because the days are evil.
Yeah.
And the nights are too.
That's true. Oh, I love that you said that. Let's go here for a second. I want to talk about when singleness can be difficult. And you just said that the nights can be, the
nights are cold and lonely.
Right, yeah. And so, and I think that's real. Like we can tell people like be devoted to God, whatever. But then you're at home and you're lying in bed and you're alone. And
I think being single is the toughest when you are sexually tempted, when you want some sex. Just to be honest, we young adults, we grown. I think being single can be toughest when you go through a really rough breakup.
Yes, yeah.
It can be really hard because you, like Isha said, you feel like you wasted time, and you like, what, you know.
I also want to do an episode podcast of how to break up well.
Oh, that's gonna
because
be good.
That's sometimes what happens is you're single, you go to the same local church, you date each other, and then you're both serving and plugged in, but then you break up.
Yeah.
And then it makes it awkward.
I would just say,
we'll do that for another podcast.
We'll do, I think another time that being single can really be tough is when you single and you don't even feel like you're even being looked at. It's not like you're rejected. You're not even being considered. And I think that's really hard for people that's single. Yeah. Like just that nobody's checking for me. Like what
I think about when you said that, I thought about David. You know, he wasn't even considered as the next
exactly.
king.
Like his the prophet had to be like, you gotta have one more son. Like, and Jesse
God was
like,
looking at him, you know.
God was looking at him. Jesse was like, oh yeah, I do have another son. Right. Just think about that. Like David was that, oh yeah, I do child.
Right. Oof.
And that's tough because you feel like, you know what, I'm pursuing God. You know, I'm trying to be satisfied. But do people even know I'm here? You know, and I think that's really tough. You know, there's some, and this guys struggle with this a lot too. And I think this is why, you know, some guys do some really self-destructive things, not just because they stupid or foolish. What they do is foolish, but it's driven from this desire. Okay, I need to make a big splash so that I can be seen. Yeah, you know what I mean. I'm going to stunt on the gram as hard as I can. Yeah, so I can be seen because I'm not being rejected. I'm not even being considered. Right. And I think that can make being single really tough.
That's good. What are your thoughts? What makes singleness difficult?
You made a lot of good points. Yeah. I mean, on that last point, that's when our identity with Christ is really tested. Yeah. And I think when we're so focused on the outwardly things, we completely forget about the things that are heavenly, like the things that are above. And we're supposed to set our minds on the things that are above.
Colossians 3.
And so I think when we just lose that vision and that mind set to keep our eyes locked on Jesus, that was one of the things that Christy Dupree told me, like right out that relationship, like keep your eyes on Jesus. Don't worry about what he's doing. Don't worry about what he's saying. Don't worry about what these other people are thinking and what they're going to say, because there's so much that goes into somebody's relationship. It involves other people. I mean, hopefully you have the right involvement, but we get our eyes it's very easy to lose that focus because we're looking at other people. We're looking at what they think about me. And it becomes we're idolizing other people. We're idolizing relationships, and we're idolizing marriage even over like what Christ has done for us and everything that he is in our hearts and who we are with him. If we start to lose that, then that's the first place we got to go, instead of looking for what does that person make me. That person makes me better, which is good, but that person doesn't make me more like Christ.
Wow.
Like,
oof.
Christ makes me more like Christ.
That's good. And I think a big part of this, as you're continuing to hopefully strive to be that devoted without distraction, and you alluded to this a while ago, but it's the spiritual disciplines, right? And as I think about Paul, like I don't know how that dude was single for so long, right? It's like, okay, Paul, but he also would always remind himself of how much Jesus loved him.
Yeah.
Right? And I love reading that through Paul's letters. It's the Son of God who gave his life for me, and the Son of God who loved me.
Yeah.
Like he made his relationship with God so personal. And so a piece of advice I would give to anybody who's struggling in the season of singleness is constantly remind yourself of how much God loves you. Like every morning, remind yourself of the gospel. Every morning, remind yourself of who Jesus is to you. And kind of as we close, I want to talk about really quick, culturally, it's almost like singleness is not seen as something that's negative, because you think about just like people living out their passions. It's like, okay, well, I don't know Jesus, but so I'm gonna live out my passions. I have these sexual desires, so I'm just gonna go live this Tinder hookup culture.
Yeah.
And looking at just like the age gap of when people used to get married to now, median age for getting married in the 1950s, several years ago, was 20 for women, 22 for men.
Wow.
Right? I think if you look at the church world, that's probably around that. I was 23, Summer was 20. And so, but culturally, that's what it was. And then in 2018, that number shot up to 28 for women and 30 for men. Right? And so shot up several years, almost 10 years of an age difference for the median age of people getting married. And I think part of that is that I have these desires, and I'm just going to go do whatever I want to do. We talked about the story of David and Bathsheba yesterday for young adults, and it talks about like David took someone that was not his, right? A wife of somebody else, and in that, we talked about that he pursued selfish desires in those moments to fulfill something. So he wasn't pursuing love; he was pursuing a selfish desire. And I think for us, as your body is causing you to feel some type of way, right? What are we doing to kind of combat that? And I think the spiritual disciplines it's going to be huge in that moment.
Yeah, and I'm going to touch on this, our next young adult session. I don't know when this will air. Probably will it air after that or before that?
Before that, yeah.
Okay, so I ain't gonna give away too much.
Give it away. They won't remember. You're good.
Okay, so our body develops faster than our spirit.
Yes.
Our body develops faster than our character. Our body tells us we're ready for stuff.
Yes.
Before we're ready for it.
That's good.
And so the thing is, well, what do we do with our bodies? The New Testament tells us, honor God with your bodies.
Come on.
And I know it's simple. It ain't easy.
Right.
But when your body tells you you're ready for something, before your spirit is actually ready for something, what do? I'm going to honor God.
Yeah.
With my body. I didn't do it perfectly.
Yeah.
But how do we get there? Well, I think it starts with understanding a very big, important word, covenant. Covenant. When you are single and you are following Jesus, you are in a covenant relationship with him. When you get married to somebody, you are entering into a covenant relationship with them. So, and I don't want to sound like, I'm being too ruly, but like, I would encourage single people, don't do married stuff when you're single.
Come on. Yeah.
Don't do things before the covenant. And I'm not just talking about sex.
Right.
Like, I'm talking about, I see sometimes, single Christian couples, acting like they married before they married.
Mm.
And I mean, they up each other's butt. They sign me. They to the, like you ain't in no covenant relationship yet.
Right.
Like, go home.
Yeah.
Talk on the phone.
I remember when Summer and I got engaged, there's people at our church like, why don't y'all aren't y'all not living together yet? And I was like, what do you mean?
At the church?
Yeah. It's like, because it becomes such a cultural normal thing to we won't get married, but I mean, we'll live together. It'll be better. It's cheaper on everybody.
Yeah, don't do that.
But like, you're putting yourself in a really tough.
Yeah, don't. Yeah. There's certain things. There's certain lines, certain access.
Yeah.
And I'm not just talking about sex, but you shouldn't make yourself so available. I think emotionally, like, until the covenant.
Yeah, it's good. I love that.
Because you're in a covenant relationship
Yeah.
with Jesus already. Like, you are known, you are seen.
That's good.
You are accepted. So
I love that. Hey, we're gonna get into a lot of this conversation. This was great. I mean, it was helpful for me, helpful for you guys, hopefully helpful for everybody tuning in. And so we're going to talk about things like, I love, like, there's a line, like, I want to talk about, an episode, how far is too far? We're going to look at, is there the one out there for you type of thing? And so, short episode. And so we're going to look at a lot of those conversations. And our prayer and hope is that this helps you simply as you follow Jesus. That's our one main desire. And so if you're local and you're hanging out with us, tuning in, don't forget we do have BT Young Adults every other Tuesday night. Follow at bt.youngadults on Instagram so you can know when we're hanging out.
The next one is February 22nd.
February 22nd. And right now, so I want to ask a simple closing question. The moment that we're shooting this, it is prior to Super Bowl Sunday. So Super Bowl Sunday is this coming Sunday. So, simple question. Who do you think is going to win? Isha, do you know who's playing?
I was about to make up some name. Like, I was the hens.
The hens?
Yeah.
Like chicken hens?
The Rams and...
Rams, okay.
Okay.
Well, because I heard about the Rams.
Okay.
So...
I heard about the Rams. So, that's who you picked.
So, you got Rams and Bengals.
Yeah, so that's the other name that threw me off because that sounds like Pringles, and
okay.
I don't really know anything about.
They're a tiger, a type of cat. Rams and Bengals. Just who do you got? Super Bowl Sunday happening this Sunday.
I want the Rams to win.
Okay, L.A. Rams. She's going to Hollywood. What do you got?
I want Sean McVay to go. He got to get one.
Okay.
The Patriots messed him up last time.
That's true. Sorry about that, Sean McVay. Sean McVay is the coach of the Rams, in case you know that.
And OBJ.
Yeah. OBJ.
I want him to get one. And Stafford, he done been through so much in Detroit.
That's true, man.
I would appreciate if he would.
I think Rams are going to win. I just feel like Joe Burrow is different this year. So.
Joey is ice cold, man.
He's ice cold this year, so I think Bengals are going to pull it off. We'll see. But next podcast, we'll talk about what do we think about the Super Bowl, right?
Yeah.
So we'll see. But anyway, love you guys so much. Thank y'all for tuning in. Share this with people.
Share it and do us a favor. All Paper Room listeners, loyal Paper Room listeners, send Danny some baby names.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Yeah, come on. Send me some names. We'll see what's up. But
yeah,
anyway.
that would be great.
Love you guys so much. We'll see y'all next time.